All right, class number 2. So let's just go through. Right off the bat, intermediate character design. Okay, so one of the things in the previous class we talked about circles, squares, and triangles, right? And one of the things that really, when you think about it, what I spoke about was the fact that it's not so much the shape as it depends on the angles, right? So the more acute the angle, the more threatening, and the more obtuse the angle, the less threatening, right? So if it's super obtuse, you're going to end up with a circle. If you're in the middle, it's going to be just a strong, solid character. And if you end up like really acute, it becomes a triangle, then you're going to end up with more of a threatening character, okay? Now, really what do you think about what that comes down to is caricature, right? A lot of people have different views about what art is meant to serve or with the purpose of it, but to a large extent, really, it's commentary, right? Because I could take a photo or I could take a video of something, and it could be literally what it is. However, if I were to draw that or paint that, I'm naturally interpreting it because it's through my eyes, and I'm putting it on paper and saying, this is what it looks like. And a great way, and really animation to a large extent, really comes down to the fact that what you're doing is, both in the design and also the animation, is that you're exaggerating and you're emphasizing certain aspects of it because you want to say something about that, okay? And so really, the exaggeration, the caricature, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see it, is what is making, it's something you want to do. So if you look at the two of these characters, both old school ones, right? Both are, I think, Fleischer. Betty Boop was really popular, right? So was Popeye. Betty Boop on its own is actually a pretty terrible character design. If I were to cover her head up and you saw just her body, you would have no idea who that was. Would not. That makes it a poor character design. There's no exaggeration. It's generally a woman's body with a child's face. And that's actually where the intrigue comes from. That's the contrast. That's the exaggeration. Her face is interesting on its own. That is enjoyable. That is interesting. It's a cool shape. It's different. But the body is very bland. And honestly, if you look at it, it looks stuck on. It doesn't look as though it exists as part of it. Just a key little note here, though, to make it more unified. What you'll notice is, see these little twirls in her hair? Notice that it's also reflected in her dress. It helps make it more unified by having those elements kind of repeated, which is nice. It's a nice thing. However, it's not the greatest. Also, just so you know, Astro Boy is based off of Betty Boop. Now that you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, let's go on the opposite end here. We end up with Popeye, right? He's extremely exaggerated. All aspects of him are exaggerated. He's got a long body here. He's got kind of short, stubby legs. The thing I find the most interesting is that he's supposed to be like the strong character. He's got tiny biceps. Look how small those are. But those in comparison to his forearms makes him look strong. Something is only as big or small as it is in comparison to something else. Because we are looking at a page, we are looking at a frame, and everything that exists only exists inside of this space. So the best way to really get a strong character is to have exaggeration not just in the character or around the character, but in the character as well. A really common thing you often see is a tall, thin guy and a short, fat guy. You see that all the time, right? Or you'll have an orange character and a blue character, or a red and a green. You put contrast between characters, but contrast in the characters is actually where you get really good design. He's very directional. He has a lot of exaggeration between his parts, and it makes it, just a lot better. So he's a very good, strong character design. Some other things you can do as well is utilize visual cues. So depending on what you exaggerate, it's going to make a difference as to what the audience automatically is going to expect from them. Okay, so what I did is I just kind of grabbed a collection of popular characters and just to show you kind of my point. So generally, if you want to make a strong looking character, it's nothing to do with the arms, nothing to do with the legs. It has to do with the chest. The larger the chest, the stronger the character is going to seem. And there are so many examples of this. But generally, large chest areas gives the appearance of strength. Okay, so Johnny Bravo is a good example. If you think there's like that lobster character and like SpongeBob, you think about it, he's got no biceps. He's got big pinchers, but he has a large chest. So chest is the thing that's going to make you think that a character is strong. That's the number one thing, which is weird, right? But that is what it is. If you want to make a character seem intelligent, it's a big brain. That seems pretty straightforward. If you're trying to make a character seem sexual, at least as far as like a female is concerned, longer legs. If you look at the legs proportions of her, it's almost like 2/3 legs and like 1/3 body. Pretty ridiculous. but that is obviously what they're going for. So longer legs is a pretty obvious note. There's other, obviously, exaggerating the different sexual cues, obviously, will make a more sexual character. If you want to make a character seem muy gordo or chunky, like Fat Albert, there you go. That seems pretty obvious. And generally, to make a cute character, besides using circles and curves, rounded shapes is the proportions. So generally, what you want to do is the larger the head to the body, the cuter it is. So if I were to take this head and make it 2/3 to 1/3 body, it would be even cuter. Okay, right now it's like 50-50, which makes it kind of cute. But if I made the head even larger, it would make it even cuter. Okay, and the same thing even with the face. If I were to take the top third of the 2/3 of the face, it's just like forehead and stuff, and then put the face, the eyes and the head, take the eyes and the nose and the mouth and make it in the bottom 1/3, it would seem even cuter. Okay, so there's things you can do in order to make something cute. But basically, it's all about proportion, and these things are visual cues. So you automatically are going to assume that if you see them in such a way that they are these things. Okay, and you can play those against the norms. But generally speaking, as far as these visual cues, most of the time you do want to kind of stick to them because it just makes it easier. We talked about this before, but obviously silhouette holds a strong value. That still is king, regardless of what you do, right? So this is Mickey Mouse. This is not Mickey Mouse. You can look at these, and you should be able to instantly recognize, as long as you are aware of their series, what the characters are. Okay, so like you guys might not know Felix the Cat. I don't know. Mighty Mouse might not be one that you would know, but I think you should know the rest of these. Okay. This chubby baby is Casper, in case you didn't know. Anyway, so there you go. We got all those, and these are a bunch of different things, and you can look at them, but they all have very strong silhouettes, generally speaking. So for this class, what we're going to do is you're going to do primitive modeling. Basically, the idea is that normally when you draw a character, you sketch out these primitive shapes, okay? You make a conceptual model, is what they call it, for your character design, your character model sheet. And so that's what you want to do. Now, the same conceptual model you would use to define or to draw up the understructure of your character, you would also actually use to model. So you just follow the same basic thing. So we would draw it out, and you can see, if you look at here, I have this primitive, which is more or less a representation of this. And it's just cylinders, cubes, and spheres. Okay. So for your next assignment, what I want you to do is basically just block out your character. You should have a real basic version of your character that it should be all encompassed. Not necessarily complete, but just that you have the entire character in play. Okay. Then you can see it here. So I have the video tutorials here on how to basically produce the primitives to create the model. And that's it.